The throne room of King Zorandar was as cold and imposing as the tyrant himself, its towering columns and shimmering black floors reflecting his merciless reign. Dr. Corbin Hale, a human medic renowned for his intergalactic expertise, stood at the center, sweat beading on his brow as he finished his work. Zorandar's broad chest rose and fell steadily now, the poison that had threatened his life neutralized by Corbin's skillful hands. The king's deep voice, laced with mockery, broke the silence. "Well, human, it seems your reputation is not entirely exaggerated. You've saved my life, and for that I owe you a debt." Corbin straightened, his features calm but his stomach churning at the king's tone. "I ask only for safe passage off your planet, your majesty." Zorandar's lips twisted into a cruel smile. "Safe passage? How modest. But I am a generous ruler. I shall grant you more, a companion for your journey." At his signal, the heavy doors behind the throne creaked open. The guards wheeled forward a young woman in an ornate but weathered hoverchair. Her silver hair cascaded over her shoulders, framing a face of breathtaking beauty. Her piercing blue eyes were defiant, even as she was presented like an object. "This is my daughter, Princess Leora," Zorandar said with a mock flourish. "She is broken, as you can see, a useless heir to a throne that requires strength. Consider her my gift to you for saving my life." Corbin's jaw tightened, barely suppressing his disgust. He glanced at Leora, noting the faint tremor in her hands and the bruises that marred her otherwise flawless skin. Her eyes met his, a storm of anger and humiliation blazing within them. "Your Majesty," Corbin said carefully, "I am a medic, not a trader of lives. I cannot accept—" "Nonsense," Zorandar interrupted with a booming laugh. "She's yours now, human. Take her off my hands and do whatever you wish. It matters not to me." Corbin clenched his fists but forced himself to maintain composure. He knelt beside Leora, speaking softly. "Princess, I won't force you to go anywhere you don't wish to. The choice is yours." For a moment, Leora seemed taken aback by his sincerity. Then, with a quiet but firm voice, she replied, "Anywhere is better than here." Corbin nodded and stood, addressing the king with an even tone. "Then we will leave immediately." As they exited the throne room, Zorandar's laughter followed them like a shadow. "Take her, human. Let the galaxy witness your folly." The celestial nomad Corbin's sleek and utilitarian spacecraft was a stark contrast to the grandeur of Zorandar's palace. Its interior was designed for functionality over luxury, with clean lines and compact spaces. As Corbin guided Leora's hoverchair up the ramp, he spoke reassuringly. "This ship isn't much, but it's safe," he said. "You'll have privacy, medical care, and anything else you need." Leora's silence lingered as they entered the medbay. She looked around, taking in the sterile environment and the advanced equipment lining the walls. Finally, she spoke, her tone sharp. "Why did you agree to take me? Was it pity?" Corbin paused, meeting her gaze. "No, I didn't agree to take you. I agreed to help you leave. There's a difference." Her eyes narrowed, studying him. "You don't know me. You don't owe me anything." "You're right," Corbin admitted, his voice steady. "But no one deserves to be treated like property. Not by your father, not by anyone." Leora's expression softened slightly, though her guard remained firmly in place. "And what do you expect in return for your kindness?" "Nothing," Corbin said simply, "except maybe for you to let me help you, if you'll allow it." Leora exhaled, the weight of her years in her father's court pressing on her. "You'll regret this," she said quietly. "Maybe," Corbin replied with a small smile. "But that's a risk I'm willing to take." In the days that followed, Leora struggled to adapt to the newfound autonomy aboard the Celestial Nomad. Corbin treated her injuries with meticulous care, crafting a custom exoskeletal frame to assist with her mobility. The device, lightweight and seamless, gave her the ability to move with newfound independence. "This feels strange," Leora admitted as she took her first steps with the frame. "It'll take some time," Corbin said, walking beside her. "But you're stronger than you think." Leora glanced at him, her expression unreadable. "You say that like you know me." "I'm starting to," Corbin replied with a faint smile. One evening, as they shared a quiet meal in the ship's mess hall, Leora finally allowed herself to relax. "You're an odd man, Corbin Hale. Most would have left me to rot in that palace." Corbin leaned back, his blue eyes thoughtful. "Maybe, but I've seen enough cruelty to know I couldn't add to it. And you're not someone to leave behind." Leora's lips curved into a small, genuine smile, the first he'd seen. You're either incredibly noble or incredibly foolish. Probably both, Corbin admitted with a chuckle. For the first time, Leora felt a flicker of hope, a fragile, tentative belief that her life could be more than the chains her father had placed on her. And Corbin? He knew that helping her escape was only the beginning. The celestial nomad drifted through hyperspace, its sleek hull reflecting the vibrant hues of the galaxy's core. Inside, Leora moved cautiously along the ship's corridors, her movements aided by the custom exoskeletal frame designed by Dr. Corbin Hale. Each step, though awkward, was a triumph, a testament to her determination and Corbin's ingenuity. "You're getting the hang of it," Corbin said as he walked beside her, ready to assist, but keeping a respectful distance. Leora stopped and glanced at him. "It feels strange, like I'm a child learning to walk all over again, but it's liberating." "That's the idea," Corbin replied, offering a small smile. "You're not confined to a hover chair anymore. You've got options." Leora's cerulean eyes softened, a flicker of gratitude breaking through her usual guarded demeanor. "Thank you. I'm not used to people caring," Corbin shrugged. "I'm not used to people calling me foolish for doing it, so we're even." Leora allowed herself a faint smile. For the first time, the sterile corridors of the celestial nomad felt like a place she could belong. Their quiet routine was interrupted by the blaring of an alarm. Corbin rushed to the cockpit, Leora following as quickly as her new frame allowed. The ship's sensors displayed a Zephyrian patrol cruiser closing in on their position. Corbin muttered under his breath, his fingers flying across the controls. "That's not good. Your father must have realized you're missing." Leora's expression hardened. "He won't stop until he drags me back. To him, I'm nothing but a loose end." "Well, this loose end isn't going quietly," Corbin said. "Hold on." He engaged the ship's stealth systems, guiding the celestial nomad into a nearby asteroid field. The maneuver was risky, but it was their best chance of evading the cruiser. Leora gripped the edge of her seat, her voice steady despite the tension. "Do you have a plan, or are you just improvising?" "A little of both," Corbin replied, weaving the ship through the asteroid field with practiced precision. "Trust me." "I'm starting to," Leora murmured, more to herself than to him. The cruiser pursued them relentlessly, its weapons firing plasma bursts that illuminated the asteroid field. Corbin's hands moved instinctively, piloting the ship through narrow gaps and around massive rocks. Leora watched him, her heart racing not from fear, but from the realization that someone was fighting for her. Not for power, not for gain, but for her. "Hold tight," Corbin warned as he activated the ship's countermeasures. A cluster of small, reflective drones launched from the celestial nomad, scattering light and confusing the cruiser's targeting systems. The cruiser hesitated, its plasma bolts missing their mark. Corbin seized the opportunity, diving deeper into the asteroid field until the patrol ship was forced to break off. As the celestial nomad emerged into clear space, Leora exhaled deeply. "You could have left me behind, avoided all of this." Corbin turned to her, his expression resolute. "And let you go back to that life? Not a chance." Safe for the moment, Corbin plotted a course to a neutral trade hub known as Port Haven, a haven for travelers, smugglers, and those looking to disappear. It was the perfect place to gather supplies and decide their next move. As the ship approached the bustling space station, Leora stood at the viewport, her gaze fixed on the vibrant swirl of ships and lights. "This is nothing like Xyleria. It's alive, free." "That's the idea," Corbin said, joining her. "Port Haven doesn't care who you are, as long as you don't cause trouble." Leora's lips quirked into a faint smile. "Then we should fit right in." Walking through the crowded market of Port Haven, Leora kept her hood up, her presence hidden among the throngs of beings from countless species. Corbin walked beside her, scanning the stalls for supplies. The hum of conversation and the vibrant colors of alien wares were overwhelming but exhilarating. Leora paused at a stall, displaying intricate jewelry made from rare minerals. The merchant, a small reptilian creature, looked up at her with curious eyes. "Ah, the lady has good taste. This piece is from the far reaches of Andarion space." Before Leora could respond, a group of mercenaries entered the market, their armor bearing the insignia of the Zephyrian Empire. Corbin tensed, his hand moving instinctively toward the blaster at his side. "They're looking for someone," Leora whispered, her voice steady but low. "Not for long," Corbin replied. We need to move, now. Corbin guided Leora through the crowded market, their movements deliberate but unhurried to avoid drawing attention. The mercenaries scanned the crowd, their eyes sharp as they questioned vendors and patrons. Leora's heart pounded as they turned down a narrow alley. Why are they so relentless? I'm nothing to him. Corbin stopped and turned to her, his voice firm. You're everything he fears, proof that his power isn't absolute. That's why he'll never stop. Leora met his gaze, her resolve hardening. Then we won't stop either. Back aboard the Celestial Nomad, the tension began to ease. Corbin sorted through their newly acquired supplies, while Leora sat at the ship's small dining table, her mind racing with possibilities. Do you think we'll ever be free of him? She asked softly. Corbin looked up, his expression thoughtful. I think freedom isn't something you wait for, it's something you claim. And we're claiming it, one step at a time. Leora studied him, her walls lowering ever so slightly. You're different, Corbin Hale. Most would have left me to rot. He smiled faintly. Well, I've never been good at doing what most people expect. For the first time in her life, Leora felt a glimmer of hope. Not just for survival, but for something more. And for Corbin, her courage and determination reminded him of why he had chosen to fight for her in the first place. Their journey was far from over, but together they were stronger than they had ever been alone. The Celestial Nomad sailed through the shimmering expanse of neutral space, its occupants contemplating their next move. Leora, now more comfortable with her custom exoskeleton frame, stood by the ship's main viewport, her cerulean eyes tracing the endless stars. For the first time, they seemed less like distant, unattainable lights and more like possibilities. Do you ever think about where this ends? She asked, her voice cutting through the soft hum of the ship. Dr. Corbin Hale, seated at the navigation console, glanced up from his work. Every day. But I've learned not to overplan. The galaxy doesn't play by anyone's rules. Leora turned to him, her expression serious. My father does. He's systematic, relentless. He won't stop until I'm either back in chains or erased from existence. Corbin's jaw tightened. Then it's a good thing I'm just as stubborn. Their conversation was interrupted by a beeping sound from the comms console. Corbin strode over and tapped a control, bringing up a message from Port Haven. It was a distorted voice, speaking in hurried tones. To the Princess of Xyleria, we hear your name whispered among the oppressed. If you are willing to lead, we are ready to follow. Leora's eyes widened. They know I'm alive? Corbin nodded, his expression thoughtful. Your escape wasn't just a defiance, it was a signal. People are starting to believe in something bigger. Leora and Corbin responded to the message, arranging a meeting at a hidden outpost deep within the Thalorian Nebula, a place where imperial eyes rarely ventured. As the Celestial Nomad entered the swirling nebula, its sensors struggled against the dense interference, but Corbin expertly navigated the ship to the outpost. The outpost was a rugged structure built into an asteroid, its inhabitants a mix of refugees, smugglers, and rebels. Leora and Corbin were greeted by Cultus Rain, a former Xylerian general who had defected years earlier. Cultus bowed slightly, his expression grim but respectful. Princess Leora, your survival is a beacon to those who suffer under your father's rule. If you are willing, we can rally forces to strike back. Leora hesitated, her mind racing. I never wanted to lead a rebellion, she admitted, but if my existence can bring hope, then I won't turn away. Corbin placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You're not alone in this. We'll figure it out. Together. As the meeting continued, Cultus revealed critical intelligence. Zephyrian Command Station Nyros, a major hub for the Empire's military logistics. If we take it out, Cultus explained, we cripple their ability to coordinate across multiple sectors. Corbin frowned. It'll be heavily defended. It will, Cultus agreed, but we have the element of surprise, and with Princess Leora's involvement, the morale boost alone could tip the scales. Leora nodded, her voice steady. Then we strike. For every life my father has crushed, we make a stand. The Resistance fleet, a patchwork of retrofitted freighters, stolen imperial ships, and privateer vessels, gathered near Nyros Station. From the Celestial Nomad, Leora and Corbin watched as the massive station came into view, its defenses bristling with weaponry. This is it, Corbin said, glancing at Leora. Are you ready? Leora adjusted her exoskeleton, her resolve unshakable. I was born into a cage. I won't let anyone else live in one. The fleet moved into position, their ships emerging from the shadows of a nearby asteroid belt. The station's alarms blared, and Imperial fighters scrambled to intercept them. While the fleet engaged the station's defenses, Leora, Corbin, and a small strike team infiltrated Nyros. Using forged codes provided by cultists, they docked undetected and began their mission to disable the station's power core. Navigating the labyrinthine corridors, the team encountered fierce resistance. Corbin's blaster fired with precision, while Leora's exoskeleton allowed her to move swiftly and support the team with tactical commands. Her presence inspired the strike team, who fought with renewed vigor. As they reached the power core, alarms echoed through the station. "They know we're here," Corbin said, setting the charges on the core stabilizers. "Let them," Leora replied, her voice fierce. "This ends now." With the charges set, the team raced back to their ship as explosions rocked the station. The core destabilized, and Nyros station erupted in a cascade of fire and debris. The Resistance fleet, seeing the station's destruction, surged forward, overwhelming the remaining Imperial forces. Aboard the Celestial Nomad, Leora watched the station collapse from the viewport. Her expression was a mix of triumph and determination. "This is just the beginning," she said quietly. Corbin stood beside her, his voice steady. "And you're the one leading it." Leora turned to him, a rare smile gracing her lips. "I'm not leading it alone." As the Celestial Nomad rejoined the Resistance fleet, Leora felt something she hadn't known in years: hope. Together, she and Corbin had ignited a spark, one that would burn brighter with every step they took. The destruction of Nyros station sent shockwaves across the galaxy. News of the Resistance's success and Princess Leora's defiance against her father spread like wildfire. While countless oppressed worlds celebrated, King Zorandar's rage ignited into a violent storm. From his throne on Zephyros Prime, he issued a decree that reverberated across his empire. "Bring me my traitorous daughter and the human who defiles our bloodline, dead or alive." As the bounty spread, mercenaries, bounty hunters, and loyalist forces mobilized to hunt down Leora and Dr. Corbin Hale. Aboard the Celestial Nomad, Leora watched the reports on a holoscreen, her jaw tightening. "He won't stop. He'll burn the galaxy to get to us." Corbin stood beside her, his gaze steady. "Then we'll keep moving, keep fighting. Every battle we win shows the galaxy that his power isn't absolute." To strengthen their cause, the Resistance decided to gather their scattered allies in a secure location. Rin Vara, a former Imperial admiral turned rebel leader, proposed the hidden asteroid base of Arcatheon as their meeting point. As the Celestial Nomad approached the asteroid, Leora gazed at the imposing structure carved into the rock. Ships from various factions, freighters, fighters, even a salvaged Imperial frigate, hovered around the base. Inside, the air buzzed with tension and hope. Leora, clad in a simple but commanding outfit, addressed the gathered leaders. Her voice was clear, her words sharp. "My father has ruled through fear and cruelty for too long. Together we've shown that he can be defied. But this fight is far from over. We need unity, strength, and courage to end his tyranny once and for all." Her speech was met with murmurs of agreement and applause. The leaders pledged their fleets and resources, uniting under a single banner for the first time. The meeting was interrupted by an alert from the base's outer defenses. A Zephyrian fleet had tracked them. Zorandar's forces launched an ambush, their warships bearing down on the asteroid. "We've been compromised," Rin shouted, rallying his soldiers. Corbin grabbed Leora's hand. "We need to get you out of here." "No," Leora said firmly. "I'm not running. This is my fight as much as anyone's." Corbin hesitated, then nodded. "Then, let's make them regret coming here." As the asteroid base turned into a battleground, Leora and Corbin joined the fray. Leora used her exoskeleton's mobility to navigate the chaotic halls, taking down attackers with precise shots. Corbin fought alongside her, his blaster unwavering. Despite the intensity of the assault, the Resistance managed to repel the Zephyrian fleet, forcing them into retreat. After the battle, Leora addressed the battered but victorious Resistance fighters. "Today, we showed my father that we won't be silenced. We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for a galaxy that deserves to be free." Her words reignited the fire in their hearts. As the Resistance regrouped, their resolve to dismantle Zorandar's empire grew stronger. With the resistance unified, the time had come to strike at the heart of the Empire. Zephyros Prime. Leora and Corbin volunteered for the most dangerous mission, to infiltrate the royal palace and disable the planetary defense grid. The celestial nomads slipped through the Empire's outer defenses under the cover of a decoy fleet. Leora and Corbin, disguised as imperial officers, navigated the palace's labyrinthine corridors. Leora's heart raced as they approached the control room. Memories of her imprisonment in these halls flooded her mind, but she forced herself to focus. "We get in, disable the grid, and get out. No mistakes," she whispered to Corbin. "Got it," he replied, his voice steady despite the tension. Inside the control room, they worked quickly. Corbin hacked into the system while Leora covered him, her blaster trained on the door. Suddenly, alarms blared. The palace's guards had discovered the breach. "We're out of time," Leora said. "Almost there," Corbin replied, his fingers flying over the console. The door burst open, and guards poured in. Leora fought fiercely, her exoskeleton giving her the agility to outmaneuver their attacks. Corbin finished the hack, the defense grid powering down just as reinforcements arrived. "Done. Let's move," Corbin shouted. Fleeing through the palace, Leora and Corbin faced wave after wave of guards. Just as they reached the exit, they were confronted by a towering figure clad in dark armor, King Zorandar himself. "You've grown bold, daughter," Zorandar sneered. "But boldness doesn't equal strength." Leora stood her ground, her voice unwavering. "Strength isn't about power, it's about standing for what's right. Something you'll never understand." The confrontation was brief but fierce. Leora and Corbin managed to escape, but not without injury. As the celestial nomads sped away from Zephyros Prime, the resistance launched their coordinated assault, capitalizing on the disabled defenses. Back aboard the ship, Leora and Corbin tended to their wounds. Exhausted but resolute, they watched the unfolding battle from the viewport. The resistance forces pushed deep into the Empire's core, their victory within reach. "You faced him," Corbin said, his admiration clear, "and you didn't back down." Leora met his gaze, her expression fierce. "I'm done being his pawn. This is my fight now." Corbin smiled, his hand brushing against hers. "And you're winning it." As the stars outside the viewport lit up with the fires of revolution, Leora and Corbin knew they had taken a decisive step toward a free galaxy. But the final battle was still to come. The battle for Zephyros Prime raged on, a crescendo of fire and rebellion as the resistance fleet overwhelmed the remnants of King Zorandar's forces. Amidst the chaos, the celestial nomad approached the palace grounds, cloaked by the wreckage of a destroyed imperial cruiser. Inside the ship, Leora and Dr. Corbin Hale prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives. Clad in lightweight armor, Leora adjusted her exoskeleton, her movements fluid and confident. Corbin checked his blaster, his expression grim but resolute. "This is it," Leora said, her cerulean eyes locking onto Corbin's. "If we don't end this today, he'll rebuild everything." "And we'll make sure he doesn't," Corbin replied. He reached out, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face. "You've come so far, Leora. No matter what happens, I'm proud of you." She smiled faintly, her resolve unshakable. "Let's finish this." Under the cover of the Resistance's aerial assault, Leora and Corbin infiltrated the palace through a hidden maintenance tunnel. The halls were eerily silent, the air heavy with the weight of Zorandar's impending defeat. As they moved deeper into the labyrinthine corridors, they encountered scattered resistance from loyalist guards, their blasters firing in sharp bursts. Leora's exoskeleton allowed her to maneuver with agility, her shots precise as she covered Corbin. He, in turn, used his medical knowledge to deploy non-lethal gas grenades, incapacitating groups of guards without excessive bloodshed. "We're close," Corbin said, checking the map on his wrist console. "The throne room is just ahead." Leora's heart pounded. Memories of her father's cold gaze and mocking words surged to the surface, but she pushed them aside. This wasn't about vengeance, it was about liberation. The throne room doors loomed before them, towering and ornate. Leora hesitated for a moment, then nodded to Corbin. Together, they pushed the doors open. King Zorandar stood at the center of the room, his imposing figure framed by the shattered remnants of a stained glass window. The stormy skies of Zephyros Prime raged behind him, mirroring his fury. Clad in black armor, he turned to face them, his eyes cold and calculating. "So, the runaway daughter returns," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. And with a human, no less. How predictable. This isn't your throne anymore, Leora said, her voice steady. The galaxy sees you for what you are, a tyrant who abandoned his own blood. Zorandar's lips twisted into a sneer. You think this rebellion makes you strong? Strength is power. And power is fear. You will never understand that. Corbin stepped forward, his blaster trained on the king. She understands more than you ever will. Strength is standing up for others, not crushing them. Zorandar's laughter was dark and sharp. Then let us see how strong you truly are. Zorandar activated his personal shield, deflecting their initial shots. The room erupted into chaos as guards poured in, their blasters firing. Leora and Corbin fought side by side, their movements synchronized as they defended against the onslaught. Leora's exoskeleton allowed her to leap onto a balcony, where she disabled the control panel for Zorandar's shield. Now, Corbin, she shouted. Corbin fired a precise shot, shattering the shield generator. Zorandar roared in anger, drawing a massive energy blade. He charged at Leora, his strike swift and brutal. Leora dodged, her exoskeleton enhancing her reflexes. This isn't your empire anymore, she said, countering his blows with calculated precision. Meanwhile, Corbin used the distraction to disable the remaining guards, ensuring they couldn't reinforce Zorandar. As the battle raged, Leora gained the upper hand. With a final decisive strike, she disarmed her father, his blade clattering to the ground. She stood over him, her blaster trained on his chest. You abandoned me because you thought I was weak, she said, her voice trembling with emotion. But weakness isn't compassion. Weakness is cruelty. Zorandar glared at her, defiant even in defeat. Do it then. Prove you're strong. Leora hesitated, then lowered her weapon. No, I'm not like you. Corbin stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. You've already won, Leora. Zorandar's forces, seeing their king defeated, surrendered. The resistance swept through the palace, securing it and declaring victory. With Zorandar in custody, the resistance officially declared the end of the Zephyrian Empire. Across the galaxy, planets celebrated their newfound freedom, their chains broken by the courage of a princess who refused to be silenced. Aboard the Celestial Nomad, Leora and Corbin watched the sunrise over Zephyros Prime from the ship's observation deck. The city below, once a symbol of oppression, now buzzed with the energy of rebuilding. What happens now? Leora asked, her voice quiet. We help them heal, Corbin replied, and we make sure the galaxy remembers what happened here. Leora turned to him, her cerulean eyes shining with determination. Together? Always, Corbin said, taking her hand. As the galaxy began to rebuild, Leora and Corbin became symbols of hope and resilience. Their story of defiance, love, and the courage to stand against tyranny echoed across the stars, inspiring generations to come. And in the quiet moments, as they stood side by side, Leora and Corbin knew they had found not just freedom, but a future worth fighting for.